I'm Dr. Ray. Thank you for joining me here on this Look Back Friday, and the doctor is in. Colleen, who called from Washington back when, says she's grateful. Okay. What is she grateful for?
So I'm really grateful for God's mercy, and I promise it's not just that. I'll go ahead and tell you the whole story if you don't mind.
Sure.
So 2 years ago, I went to a women's healing retreat, Bible-based. It helped me understand the depth of God's love and forgiveness, and it helped us understand how to break our patterns of sin and to choose forgiveness, healing, and mercy through God. And I stopped blaming and focused on God for everything. And that was 2 years ago. And then fast forward to just this year's Mother's Day weekend, I spent it with my parents and my son, opening up our family cabin, cleaning and et cetera with Mom and Dad to help them out for our Memorial Day weekend. And I was inspired to write a note, not just I of course brought Mom a card, but I wrote a note to my dad before we left. I thanked him for being my dad and for loving Mom and for always being there and letting us know that he was his wife, not just his wife, and for being her and our protector while we were growing up, and that I love him and appreciate him and how proud I was to be his daughter. And then, and my dad and I had always had kind of a strained relationship, but since that healing weekend a couple of years ago, things got better and better with us. I just loved each other more and more. And unfortunately, the next Saturday, my parents were in an accident, and Dad died instantly, and my mom died a week later.
Oh,
but when I went to their house, I saw that he had read the note, opened the note, and read the note. And I'm so grateful the way that God's merciful, and He asks us to be merciful and forgiving and loving and just to love people. And I'm so grateful I miss my parents, of course, but
I'll bet you cannot gauge, dear. You cannot gauge at all what you gave your father. Because I got to believe, like most dads, me included, when you have friction with a child, you tend to think the child doesn't care for you. You tend to think that the child looks at you as though, well, gee, why couldn't I get a better parent? And when you said what you said, you lifted off of him any of that father self-doubt with your letter. No question. And you know what else you did? You lifted a lot of guilt off of you, because I got a feeling had you not done that, you would have done what many people do, which is, I was not as loving as I should have been, and now I don't have the chance to be loving anymore. That's a pretty good thing to be grateful for, dear, and that is far from one of the standards. Many, many years ago, when I worked at a mental health center, I had a mom whose 9-year-old daughter died of leukemia. Now, at that time, leukemia was much more of a death sentence for little kids than it is now. Mom came to counseling, in part because she was dealing with the grief of losing her daughter, but in part she was dealing with a tremendous amount of guilt. I don't remember if I recall the details correctly, but Mom would visit the little girl every day and be there as much as she could all the time. Well, this one particular time, the little girl, I believe, asked her mother, "Mommy, would you stay with me today?" And the mother said, "Sure, I will." And the girl fell asleep. And so Mom thought, well, I can go out for a little bit and run some errands and come back. If I remember correctly, the girl died while Mom was gone. Mom didn't know if the girl had woken up and said, "Where's Mom?" Or Mom wasn't there when the little girl passed. That just ate Mom up. It was as though it's nothing she could correct. One thing about grief is you're sad and it hurts, but with the passage of time, some of the pain dulls. The thing about that kind of guilt is you can't make it right in your mind. So what Colleen got when she wrote that letter to her father is she said, here's what I love and admire about you, Dad. In essence, trying to heal that relationship. She had no way of knowing that her parents were going to die shortly thereafter. None. Zero. Zip. When St. Paul says, as far as possible, be on good terms with all people, I would suggest this. If you got folks in your life that are very close to you, relatives, friends, and there's some kind of rift or a history of conflict, to the degree you can, and again, they may not let you, I got that, I understand that, but to the degree you can, let them know. Let them know that you're sorry for whatever you did. Don't expect an apology from them. You're apologizing for you. Or you're just reaching out, touching them a little bit. That's good. Because you don't know. You have no idea. And some of the most intense grief I have ever seen from people who truly can't get past their grief is guilt grief. Guilt grief. Shoulda. Why didn't I? I could have done this. Sometimes I see neglect grief. You know what neglect grief is? It's when you're so busy and you're so involved in your own life that your mom or your dad or someone very, very close to you they're on the end of your to-do list. And you'll get there when you can, or you'll see them when you can, or you'll spend time with them when you can. And it's very easy to let that relationship slide until something happens, especially with an elderly parent. Something happens. Then you look back at it and you say, oh my, boy, what I wouldn't give now to have a chance to be with them again a little more. Why did I neglect that part of that relationship? I used to see my parents a lot. We go to breakfast pretty much every week, and her being Italian, if you weren't there every 2 days, you were absentee. And there was always a difference between what my mom wanted to see of us and what we saw of my mom, even though I thought it was a fair amount. Okay? But after Mom passed away, I looked back and I said, could I? Could I have done more to meet Mom at that point in her life? Even though I thought I was meeting her pretty good?